What's up, guys? Dr. Doll here. Welcome back to my closet because apparently that's where all my filming is happening nowadays. I tried to open the window and give us a little bit more natural light, so hopefully that helps a little bit. But anyways, so today I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about doll conditions. And I'm going to be using mostly American Girl dolls to show the different levels of conditions. But this kind of applies to a lot of dolls, most dolls. So especially ones that fall into the 18-inch cloth body, vinyl limb category. This is not by any means like a standard classification process. This is not something that's widely used. This is my own personal way of categorizing dolls and their condition for my own sake and my own business. This is just kind of how I group them together. So there are 5 different categories of different dolls' conditions. So first you have your new in box. So this is a doll that is new in box. She should be absolutely perfect, nothing wrong with her at all. Then you have your display/adult collector doll. Then you have your light play doll. So perhaps this is a doll that's been played with lightly, maybe well cared for by an older child. Then you have your play/TLC category. So this is where a doll has been heavily played with, perhaps by a younger child, maybe thrown around a little bit, lots of dry brushing, and they're also TLC. And then last you have your very TLC or 4 parts only doll. And we'll kind of look at examples of each of those. I should say there's 6 categories because then there's also custom dolls. They kind of are in their own world, their own category, so to say. So those are the 6 different categories that we'll be discussing today and just kind of taking a look at. Again, this is not like a universal category. This is not something that's universal. This is just what I use and how I categorize my dolls. So feel free to use it. Feel free to borrow it. And feel free to disagree also. That's totally fine. So this is just what I use for my business to kind of group my dolls into different categories. So first of all, the very first category is new in box. Now, unfortunately, I do not have a new in box doll to show you. So I wish I did. But I can't afford to buy one just for this video. But I think most of you kind of know what that looks like. Brand new, off the shelf, in a doll box, no marks, wig is brand new, probably in a hairnet. So the moment that you take that doll out of the box, it automatically goes into the next category down, which is display/adult collectors. So I do have a couple of those I can show you. So this is Elizabeth, and I did an unboxing video of her a while back. If you haven't seen it, you should go back and watch it. But I would put her in the display category. So she is overall in excellent condition. She has no visible marks. She has very tight limbs. Her hair is still quite shiny and quite new. So what's the difference between the in-box new doll versus the display doll? So, basically, once you take it out of the box, it is no longer, by definition, a new in-box doll. And so it it does, even if it's in perfect condition, it's still, by definition, is no longer new in box. So it then becomes a display doll. Um, I would say that there's a big majority of dolls that you buy or that you can buy used fall into this category. Most of them have been very well taken care of. So it's sort of the adult collector category, someone who puts the doll on a doll stand or on a shelf and just enjoys looking at them. Maybe every once in a while changing their clothes, giving their hair a light brush, and then maybe restyling it. So you will see very little wear on these dolls. Most of them will have just tiny bit of frizz, because a lot of times their hair does get styled a couple of times a year, and they usually do have their outfits changed a couple of times a year. So there's just very minimal wear on these dolls. I'll show you one more. So that's Elizabeth. This is Audrey. She's my number 29. I would also put her in the display/adult collector category. So she's a number 29, very stiff limbs, no visible marks, hair still very shiny, little tiny bit of breakage and frizz, probably from minimal brushing/styling. So those are two dolls that are a good example of my display/adult collector category. So that's category number 2. We had 1, which was new in box, 2, which is the display category, and then 3, that would be our light play category. So these are dolls that are well taken care of, but they were played with. So there's a difference between a doll that was only used for display, that was put on a shelf, just to be admired, and maybe, a couple times a year have her outfit changed. There's a difference between that doll and a doll that was actually played with, and carried around and regularly had their hair styled. So I've got a couple examples here. One would be Nellie. So, I would put Nellie in the light play category. So her body is like in perfect condition, but you can definitely tell that her hair has been brushed quite a bit, probably dry brushed. And I'm guessing, this was the doll of an older child, maybe 8, 9, 10, 11. In that range. So a child that took very good care of their doll, but there is a little bit of wear. Limbs aren't quite as loose or aren't quite as tight as a display doll. Hair is a little bit more frizzy. I'll show you another example. So this is Krissa. Krissa's limbs are a little bit looser, and her hair is also, there's more breakage. It's a little bit drier. I can tell that her stuffing's been moved around a little bit. She does have a mark here, not a big deal. But this is one that I would consider to be like a light play. Not quite TLC, but also not a display doll. She has been played with, but she's also been cared for. So that's kind of the third category that I put dolls in. And I should mention that those 3 categories that I've discussed so far, those are all dolls that I try not to do custom work on. So any doll that is a light play doll or in better condition, I usually will just fix her up, him or her up, and try to resell them as is. I've said before, I don't really like to ruin perfectly good dolls. everyone has a different sort of mantra belief that they go by. Some people are totally fine with buying a brand new doll and doing a custom with that. Some people actually prefer to do it that way so that, you know, that you have a higher quality custom. I personally I don't really like to work on perfectly good dolls, you know, especially if they are a rare doll, like a Girl of the Year or a retired doll. I try not to do customs on those dolls just because I feel like if they're in good condition, I feel like, you know, there's still value there. I try mostly to work on TLC or worse dolls. So we'll get to those next. But this is the light play category number 3. So then what comes after that would be the official TLC category. So this is when there is at least one major thing wrong with the doll. So up until now, there's really been nothing majorly wrong with these dolls. So in the light play category, you just have minor things wrong. You have minor things wrong, like a little bit of dryness, a little bit of frizz. You have light scuffs, light marks, nothing major. Now, once you go down into the TLC category, this is where you start having major problems. So here's a good example of a doll that is perfectly fine, except for one thing. Her hair is awful. Her hair is so dry. It's so frizzy. She's got a lot of missing hair up here. And other than her wig, she's really in pretty good shape. There's not a lot wrong with her. Her limbs are even still pretty stiff. But she has one thing that's majorly wrong with her, and that kind of classifies her, at least in my mind, as a TLC doll. This is where I start to do customs, is on dolls like this. When you have one thing that is majorly wrong that needs to be replaced, like this wig. So she needs a new wig, obviously. So that's a doll that I would do. I wouldn't feel bad doing some custom work on. Now the TLC category, you know, these might be dolls that belonged to smaller children, maybe children that didn't take quite as good care of their dolls. Maybe they got thrown around. Maybe they got dropped down the stairs. Maybe they got left outside. Maybe the dog got them, you know. These are dolls that are a little bit beat. So she's not in too bad of shape, though. I would classify her as a TLC just because of her hair. But really, other than that, she is not in bad shape at all. So she would be classified as TLC. Now, I would also classify her as a TLC doll. And, oh, my cat. Every time I film, my cat wants to be involved, which is weird because she doesn't normally really like to be around me that much, but she always can tell when I'm filming, and for whatever reason, she feels the need to be involved. So, anyways, back to Leah. So, don't you mess with my tripod. Alright, I'm back. I had to kick her out because she was trying to mess with my tripod, and that's not very good for filming. So, this is Leah, and I would put her in the TLC category. And the reason I would put her in that category rather than very TLC is because, other than the obvious, she has some very interesting makeup done with Sharpie on her face, which unfortunately, you know, with Sharpie it's permanent. So other than that, though, she's in good condition. She's got stiff limbs, no other visible marks other than the obvious. Her hair's not even in that bad of shape. So she has one majorly thing wrong with her. So that's what kind of puts her in the TLC category for me. Now we get to the fun category, which is the very TLC dolls, or the for parts only dolls. So these are dolls that there's just nothing left. You know, there's very little or no life left in them. And part of the reason why I put them in that category is they're so beat up. It's to the point where no one really wants to play with them, or they can't play with them. So this Just Mold here is kind of an instance of what I would classify as a very TLC doll. Just barely though. But like, her body is still intact. She's not missing any limbs. She does have an awful lot of pen marks on her face. She's got pen marks on her legs, on her arm, all over her arm. She has quite a few scuff marks on her cheeks, like maybe she was drug on some rough surface. And so that's one thing wrong with her. And then she also has had a pretty terrible haircut, and also what's left of her hair is very dry. I would put her in the very TLC category because there's two major things wrong with her. And at this point, I don't see a lot of people really wanting to play with her, even little kids, because there's not much left of her hair to play with. You know, little kids want to brush the hair, they want to play with the hair, they want to style the hair, and there's just not much left here. And there's a huge bald spot here, so, you know, I just don't see a lot of little girls really being interested in this doll. Obviously, adult collectors are not going to be interested in this doll, so she just doesn't have a lot of life left. I would definitely put her in the last category, although she's definitely not even close to the worst that I've seen. So another doll that would be in that category is, I've used her for several of my videos, but this Madame Alexander with her head off, no one's gonna play with a headless doll, so she would be in my very TLC category. Any dolls that are missing limbs, missing parts, missing eyes, maybe they've got chew marks. You know, I've seen dolls, their hands are missing because a dog chewed them off, or, you know, something like that. You remember my worst TLC doll ever? She is definitely in that category. So a doll that is just so beat up that, like, her value is pretty much nil. Her value is mostly in just her parts at this point. So those are the 5 condition categories that I categorize my dolls in when I get them. Anytime I buy a doll lot, sight unseen, I always sort of unbox them and look at them. And I see, you know, I kind of just go over, okay, what's wrong with them? Is it a major flaw or is it a minor flaw? And like I said, if they are just lightly played with or display only, then a lot of times I don't do anything with them. I'll just fix them up, maybe give their hair a condition, recurl it, something like that, and resell them. Dolls like this are perfectly fine. Not much wrong with them. It's when you get into the dolls that are a little bit more beat up, such as Miss Poor Leah here, or this Just Mold. It's these dolls that I do most of my work on. And I get the most satisfaction working on dolls like this too, because I feel like I'm giving them a second chance, you know, because in their current state, it's like, I just don't think there's many people who really genuinely want to play with this doll. So giving them a second chance and sort of giving them that makeover feels good, you know. So that's kind of how I categorize my dolls. Now, I had mentioned before there's a sort of sixth category. That's the custom category, and that's sort of a wild card. So here is, I'll show you. This is Dahlia. She's my latest custom creation, and I made her from an old, very TLC Molly, Pleasant Company Molly. And when I say very TLC, I'm not saying that lightly. Like, 2 of her legs were pretty much off, and then she was missing her eyes. So, I didn't feel bad doing a custom on her. But as far as condition on these, it's very much, it is sort of a gamble. It's sort of a risk, and I can understand why people are hesitant to buy custom dolls because you don't really know what you're getting into. A lot of it just depends on the person who does the customs and what their standards are, and so I would definitely check out their reviews if they post, if they have reviews that you can read, if they have any like disclaimers on their website. A lot of people who do customs will say, I do this from a TLC doll, so there might be something wrong with it. Now, I always try to tighten my limbs. I always try to add stuffing. I try to use clean stuffing, and I will definitely clean up the doll, scrub the doll. I'll clean the canvas if it needs it. I always try to make the doll as nice as possible. Now, that's not true for every custom maker. Some people who do customs, and I'm not naming names here, but some people who do customs will literally just buy a TLC doll like this, and just put a new wig on her and sell her as is. Don't bother with the marks, don't bother with cleaning her up, nothing. And unfortunately, because of people like that, it's sort of given other people who do customs the right way a bad name. There's a lot of people who do it the right way. There's a lot of people who make very good dolls. So you shouldn't be afraid of buying a custom. Just do a little homework first. If there's someone who loves dolls and cares about dolls, and that sort of emanates and radiates from their work, then it should be a person who, at least does some good work. Most people I know that genuinely love dolls, they don't want to put bad dolls